Look, I know how this sounds. I know what you're probably thinking the moment you hear this. You're already judging me, aren't you? That's okay. Most people do. But I need you to understand. Just give me a chance to explain my side. To tell you how it felt, from the inside out. My name is Eleanor, I'm 32, and yeah, I blew up my life. I destroyed a perfectly good relationship, a relationship that everyone, and I mean everyone, considered perfect. He was the ideal boyfriend, the kind of guy your mother dreams of you bringing home. Stable, kind, loyal, handsome even, in that classic, wholesome way. But he was also, well, he was boring. Predictable. Safe. And sometimes, safe feels an awful lot like suffocating. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of beige, and all I wanted was a goddamn splash of color, even if that color was blood red. We had been together for almost 12 years, James and I. We met in college, practically babies, stumbling through life, figuring things out together. He was my first everything, really. First serious boyfriend, first live-in partner, first discussion about a future with a capital F. We grew up side by side, our lives intertwining so seamlessly that it became impossible to see where one of us ended and the other began. People always said we were an old married couple, even when we were just 23, and back then I thought it was sweet. I thought it meant we were meant to be. He was the anchor, the calm in every storm. He remembered my favorite coffee order. He knew exactly how I liked my eggs. He'd leave little notes for me on the counter before he left for work. He was attentive, thoughtful, always planning, always caring. He was, objectively, the best man I'd ever known. And that's the problem, isn't it? When something is so universally acknowledged as good, how do you admit that it's not good enough for you? How do you say, your boundless kindness feels like a leash, your unwavering stability feels like a cage, and your constant attention feels like a spotlight that burns too hot? It makes you sound like a monster. And maybe I was. We had our routines, our sacred rituals. Sunday mornings were for brunch at the same little cafe, same table, same order. Tuesday nights were for our designated date night, always a new restaurant, always chosen by him, always exactly the kind of place you'd find in a top 10 romantic spots listicle. He'd bring me flowers every other Friday, not because it was an occasion, but just because he knew I liked them. Our evenings were a blur of shared meals, quiet Netflix binges, and early bedtimes. It was comfortable, so comfortable it was practically upholstered. There was no chaos, no edge, no thrilling uncertainty. It was a well-oiled machine, and I, frankly, felt like a cog. I started craving friction, a little grit in the gears. I wanted something messy, something unpredictable, something that didn't come with a schedule. I felt like I was performing the role of Eleanor, James's girlfriend, rather than actually being Eleanor. And I didn't even know who Eleanor was anymore, without him there to define her. I looked at our life and saw a perfect, beautifully rendered diorama, but I wasn't living in it. I was just observing it, feeling increasingly detached. Then Lucas walked into my life. He was a new client at the agency where I worked, a freelance graphic designer for a new, edgy tech startup. He was everything James wasn't. He had tattoos covering his arms, a cynical smirk, and a laugh that sounded like gravel grinding against asphalt. He wore ripped jeans and band t-shirts to meetings, and he didn't give a SHD what anyone thought. He was chaos in human form, a whirlwind of late nights, last-minute decisions, and a dark, sarcastic wit that made me feel like I was finally speaking my native language. He saw the boredom in my eyes, the restlessness I thought I was so expertly hiding. He saw me, or at least the version of me I desperately wanted to be. He'd make comments, casual asides, about how too many people settle for beige lives, or how predictability is the death of the soul. It felt like he was speaking directly to my most secret, shameful thoughts, validating every unspoken complaint I had about my life with James. It was like he had a key to a locked room in my brain, and he just waltzed in and turned on all the lights. The first transgression, it wasn't even physical. It was a late-night text, a joke only we would get, shared after a particularly long meeting. He'd written, "Still stuck in beige," or "Did you find your splash of red yet?" And I laughed, a real, unforced laugh that felt like a revelation. I texted him back. Still looking, but I think I just found a tiny drop. The thrill that shot through me was intoxicating. It wasn't guilt, not really. It was power. It was the feeling of a secret, a delicious, dangerous secret that was all mine. It felt like I was finally alive, finally doing something just for myself. That one text led to another, then a series of clandestine coffee breaks, then working lunches that lasted for hours, morphing into after-work drinks that stretched late into the night. We talked about everything, our dreams, our disappointments, the art we loved, the lives we secretly yearned for. He made me feel seen, truly seen for the first time in years. He listened, he challenged me, he made me question everything. James, meanwhile, was completely oblivious. Or perhaps, willfully so. He was so trusting, so confident in our bond, that he never even considered the possibility. He'd just smile and say, "Long day at the office, huh, babe?" and wrap an arm around me, completely unaware that his perfect world was already cracking around the edges. His blind faith, his utter lack of suspicion, felt like an unspoken permission slip. It was like if he wasn't going to look, then what was the harm in exploring? The pattern of deception became second nature. My phone was a fortress of secrets, notifications turned off, texts deleted the moment they were read. My calendar became a work of fiction, filled with phantom meetings and invented errands. I became a master of alibis, a pro at crafting casual, believable lies that slipped off my tongue with practiced ease. The lies weren't just about covering my tracks. They were also about creating a new narrative for myself, one where I was vibrant and spontaneous and desirable, instead of the woman who watched Netflix and ate the same takeout every Tuesday. James's attentiveness, which I once found suffocating, now became a tool. When he asked about my day, I'd offer vague but plausible details, knowing he'd accept them without question. When he planned our next date night, I'd agree, all the while thinking about the illicit hours I'd spent laughing with Lucas, feeling more connected to a stranger than to the man I shared a bed with. I justified it all by telling myself I was finally getting what I needed, what James couldn't give me. Passion, excitement, a sense of being truly alive. What was wrong with wanting to feel that? Wasn't it better to seek out a little happiness, even if it was on the side, than to wither away inside a relationship that felt like a beautiful, golden cage? It wasn't about hurting James, not really. It was about saving myself. That's what I told myself anyway. Over and over again, until I almost believed it. The line blurred, then vanished entirely. It was a blur of stolen moments, hushed phone calls from the bathroom, and the electric thrill of nearly being caught. My heart beat faster, my blood coursed with adrenaline. Every lie I told was a step further into this new, exhilarating world, and every step felt like a victory. I was becoming someone new, someone bolder, someone I barely recognized, but someone I liked. And the more I liked her, the more the old Eleanor, James's Eleanor, faded away. The climax, the point of no return, happened on a weekend when James was out of town visiting his parents. Lucas and I had been building to it for weeks, the tension between us palpable, a live wire buzzing with unspoken desire. We were working late, supposedly on a crisis project, but really we were just talking, just existing in each other's orbit, drinking cheap wine and listening to obscure indie music. The conversation shifted, as it always did, to our lives, to the compromises we felt we'd made. He looked at me, his eyes dark and intense, and he said, "You know, Eleanor, you deserve to feel all of it. Not just a muted version," and in that moment, something in me snapped. The dam broke. I convinced myself that this raw, visceral connection with Lucas was real love, the kind of love they wrote songs about, the kind of love that transcended boring routines and practical considerations. The years with James, the stability, the comfort, the quiet devotion, that was the lie. That was the easy path, the safe choice. This, with Lucas, this was brave. This was authentic. This was me. We kissed, and it was everything I'd imagined. Messy, passionate, urgent. And then we crossed the line. The next morning, I woke up in Lucas's bed, the early light filtering through his grimy apartment window, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a terrifying clarity. This wasn't just a drop of red anymore. This was a goddamn tidal wave. But then, the feeling evaporated, replaced by a fierce conviction. This was it. This was what I needed. I couldn't go back to beige. I couldn't go back to James. I had to choose myself. I had to choose Lucas. I called James that afternoon, my voice trembling, and I ended it. I told him it wasn't fair to him, that I needed to find myself, that I was unhappy. I didn't tell him about Lucas. I couldn't. He deserved more honesty, but I was a coward. I couldn't face the pain in his voice, the questions I knew he'd ask. I was too wrapped up in my own soaring sense of liberation, my own selfish pursuit of this real life. He listened, silent for a long time. Then he just said, his voice flat, "I understand, Eleanor. I hope you find what you're looking for, no anger, no begging. Just a quiet, devastating acceptance that I completely misinterpreted as weakness." It almost made me laugh. He was so good. Too good. And I was too much. I imagined a future with Lucas, a life lived on the edge, full of spontaneity and passion, free from the constraints of expectation. I saw us traveling the world, creating beautiful art, living life on our own terms. It was a dizzying, beautiful fantasy. And then it shattered. Just days after I broke up with James, Lucas seemed to shift. He was still charming, still witty, but a new aloofness crept in. He started canceling plans last minute, his texts became less frequent, his answers more clipped. When I finally confronted him, my heart pounding, he just shrugged, his eyes avoiding mine. He said, "Look, Eleanor, you know I care about you. But this was just fun, right? A connection. We both needed to blow off some steam. I'm not really the relationship type." You know that he even had the audacity to suggest that I was the one who had taken it too seriously, that I'd misunderstood the casual nature of our connection. My fantasy, that vibrant, passionate future, crumpled into dust. He wasn't my great love, my soulmate. He was just a catalyst, a convenient distraction, a mirror that reflected back the version of myself I wanted to see. And now that I'd made the biggest, most irreversible decision of my life, he was done. He had his fun, and now he was moving on, leaving me stranded in the wreckage. The truth, when it came out, wasn't for me. I was still reeling from Lucas's casual dismissal, still trying to piece together the shattered fragments of my brave new world, when James called. His voice wasn't flat anymore. It was cold, steel-edged, utterly devoid of emotion. He said, "I know, Eleanor, just 2 words, but they hit me like a physical blow. I know everything." My blood ran cold.
How?
How could he know? I had been so careful, so meticulous. He didn't scream, he didn't cry, he didn't even raise his voice. He just laid it all out, calmly, fact by fact. He had seen the texts, the late-night calls. He had checked my phone records, cross-referenced my work trips with my actual location data. He knew about the restaurant, the one Lucas and I frequented, the one I had told James was just a client meeting. He even had photos, apparently, taken by a mutual friend who had seen us together and had, out of loyalty to James, sent them to him. He'd been gathering evidence, systematically, quietly, for weeks. While I was reveling in my perceived cleverness, he was meticulously building the case against me. He had known, all along, and he had waited for me to make the choice, to show my true colors. He ended it with a finality that still echoes in my mind. "Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't come to the apartment. I've already moved my things. My lawyer will be in touch about the lease and the finances. Our friends already know. My family knows. You made your bed, Eleanor. Now lie in it." He hung up before I could even stammer out an apology, a defense, anything. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. It was a clean break, surgical in its precision. Our shared apartment, which had been our home for nearly a decade, was emptied of his presence within days. He took everything that was distinctly his, leaving behind only the things we had bought together, the things that were now just things. He blocked me on every social media platform, on my phone, even on my email. It was as if I had been digitally erased from his life, a ghost banished from the machine. And then Lucas, predictably, disappeared completely. He stopped answering my calls, stopped replying to my desperate texts. His Instagram, once public, went private. He was gone, evaporated into the ether, leaving me with nothing but the chilling realization that I had burned down my entire life for a fleeting fantasy. He even sent me one final text, a single, bitter line. "You brought all this on yourself, Eleanor. Don't try to pin it on me." The aftermath was a cold, brutal reality. My social circle, which had largely been interwoven with James's, evaporated overnight. Friends who had been like family ghosted me. My own friends, the few I had independently, looked at me with a mix of pity and judgment. They'd say things like, "James was such a good guy, Eleanor. What were you thinking?" Or worse, "Are you happy now? Was it worth it?" My sister, who had always been my biggest cheerleader, struggled to look me in the eye. My mother, God bless her, tried to be supportive, but even she couldn't hide her disappointment. I was suddenly an outcast, the pariah, the woman who had thrown away everything. The loneliness was crushing, a physical weight that pressed down on my chest every single day. I tried to reach out to James, just once, a desperate, rambling email filled with apologies and hollow promises of change. It bounced back immediately. His mother, bless her heart, not mine, was the one who delivered the final, crushing blow. I ran into her at the grocery store a few months later. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a weary sadness, and said, "Eleanor, how are you?" I mumbled something about trying to get back on my feet. She just nodded, her gaze firm. "You know, James is doing really well," she said, her voice soft but clear. "He's met someone. A lovely girl. She's kind and steady, and she makes him laugh. He looks lighter, Eleanor. Like a huge weight has been lifted from him. And he's doing so well at work, too. Got that big promotion he was always talking about. Every word was a dagger. He was flourishing. He was thriving. He was lighter because I was gone. He had found happiness, real happiness, with someone who actually appreciated him. And I was stuck, drowning in the consequences of my own monumental FCK-up, watching my life stagnate while it soared. My promised new life of excitement was nothing but empty nights and bitter regrets. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to say, but I was unhappy. I was suffocating. But the words caught in my throat. I looked at her, this woman who had once loved me like a daughter, and saw only a deep, profound pity, tinged with a quiet rage. She continued, her voice unwavering. "You know, Eleanor, James loved you with his whole heart. He gave you everything. And you broke it. You broke him. You broke us. And that's something you're just going to have to live with." And then she turned, walked away, and left me standing there, clutching a basket of groceries, feeling utterly exposed and utterly alone. That conversation, it's etched into my brain. It's the truth bomb I still pick at, like a raw wound that refuses to heal. Because she was right. I broke it all. And now I hear he's engaged. To that lovely girl. They're planning a wedding, something beautiful and intimate, just like he always talked about. He's going to build a life with her, a happy, stable life, filled with all the things I scorned. And I'm still here, alone, navigating the quiet emptiness of my apartment. Do I regret it? That's the question, isn't it? The one everyone wants to know. Part of me, the part that screams in the middle of the night, regrets it with every fiber of my being. I miss the comfort, the stability, the sheer quiet goodness of James. I miss being loved so completely. But another part of me, the stubborn, self-justifying part, still whispers that I don't regret wanting more. I don't regret choosing myself, even if myself turned out to be a clueless, selfish moron. I was trapped. He couldn't handle the real me, the messy, chaotic, wanting more me. He wanted a perfect picture, and I was never going to fit neatly into that frame. Lucas was just a mirror, reflecting back my own desperate desire for something different. He was selfish, yes, but he showed me what I was missing. Maybe it wasn't about James or Lucas. Maybe it was just about me, and the fact that I was too immature, too self-absorbed, to appreciate what I had. Maybe I needed to burn everything down to learn that the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes it's just a different shade of dead. But I did learn something, didn't I? I learned that I can survive chaos. I learned that I am capable of making truly terrible decisions. And I learned that sometimes when you go chasing after something shiny, you end up losing everything truly valuable. So yeah, here I am. 32, single, living in an apartment that feels too big for just one person, haunted by the ghost of a life I meticulously destroyed. And honestly, I still don't know if I'm the villain, the victim, or just a fool who finally got what she deserved. But I guess that's for you to decide.